Good afternoon, a very warm welcome to today's stage of the Saudi Tour. Stage number 3. It's going to be an exciting day with the winds blowing pretty strongly across these desert plains. Let's take a look back at what's happened in the race. The riders racing for this trophy. Day 1, it was the Lotto Soudal team who took control on the front of the peloton. There were crashes on the gravel in Hegra. The lead-out trains got the first chance of the season to lead out, and it was Ewan who exploded across the line to take his first win of 2022. Yesterday was all about the run-in to the final climb of the day. Attacks at the front, riders getting dropped on the final run-in, but it was Buitrago who blitzed the climb to take his first professional win. Let's take a look then at today's stage. 181.2 kilometers, taking us from the historic Taimai Harajwel to the AlUla Old Town. Along the way, the riders will face 2 active sprints and a bonus sprint, but the most important part of today's parkour is all about the wind direction. It's going to create havoc. There are gusts of well over 60 kilometers an hour across the desert today. It's very, very warm as well, and we're at an altitude of over 1,000 meters. It makes for an enticing, spicy mix on the incense route. Well, just to update you with what's been going on out on the course so far, we are waiting to pick up the riders. The riders are currently in a restricted zone as far as flying is concerned. So we're going to wait for the riders to arrive out of that restricted zone, and then we will pick them up with the live pictures. We were expecting them to be there by now, but the wind has been incredibly tough out there on the roads. In the first hour of racing, the riders covered hardly any distance at all, around about 25 kilometers. They were toiling into pretty hefty winds. So right now, they're about 20 minutes behind the schedule that we anticipated in the road book. So we'll find out how they are doing out on the course when we pick up on them. As we look out across the desert, let's just update you with what has been going on though, because it's been a chaotic day out on the roads of the Saudi Tour. At the beginning of the stage, we saw really fierce accelerations by a number of the bigger teams who tried to take the race on and split it in the crosswinds. The riders were facing sort of head crosswinds with wind speeds up to around about 32 kilometers an hour. And that means that the riders were really facing some pretty tough conditions, and as such, the race split up and we ended up with a group of 26 riders at the front of the peloton. So 26 riders went away. Well, before we cover the rest of what's been going on during the race today, let's catch up with some of the interviews from yesterday, and let's hear from Santiago Buitrago, who was the winner of yesterday's stage with that magnificent attack over the top of that final climb of the day.
Santiago Buitrago, una primera victoria de carrera a 22 años, supongo que significa mucho, ¿no?
Sí, la verdad significa mucho para mí. Realmente gracias a Dios por esta
it means a lot for me. Thanks to God, thanks to my team for the opportunity. And to them, a great job. Yes, it's my first professional victory, and I really didn't believe it until I crossed the line. Yeah, I'm very, very happy. So will the Saudi Tour become an objective now? Well, I think we are leaders of the general classification. For the team, that's very important. So to win this tour would be good motivation for the team. And of course, it would be a good start to the 2022 season. Thank you very much. So Santiago Buitrago, the young rider from Bahrain Victorious, 22 years of age, comes from Bogota. And he is a rider who hadn't taken his first victory till yesterday. 18th overall in the Tour of Catalonia, Volta Catalunya, and 8th overall in Vuelta Burgos. A rider who could win this race overall. Current lead, 7 seconds. Anton Charmig is in 3rd place, the Danish rider from the Uno X team. And Rui Costa in 4th place overall, after taking some bonus seconds along the way. Some of those riders have had a little bit of a scare, though, out on the course today. It has been flat out from the start, particularly with teams trying to force the pace. Well, just to update with you then, just to reiterate, we're waiting for the riders to come out of a restricted flying zone in this particular region. So we're going to update you on what's going on, and we will pick up on the racing today. Don't be worried about that at all. We have got everything up in the air, the planes in the air, the helicopters are in the air, and the motorbikes are with the peloton. We're just waiting for them to come out of this restricted zone, and then we will bring you all the action. Let's hear from Caleb Ewan from last night.
7 seconds behind now in the GC. Sprinter stages to come. I suppose you're pretty optimistic to maybe reconquer the green.
Yeah, you know, there's obviously an opportunity tomorrow if I win and get the 10-second bonus. But yeah, obviously to hold on to the green jersey to the very end is going to be super hard, and yeah, not realistic. But yeah, you know, there's still another 2 chances to come, so we'll go for those ones full gas.
Thank you very much.
Caleb Ewan from last night. Looking forward to today's race and hoping to take another victory. The question is where Caleb Ewan is right now. 20 points he has in the points classification, 5 points ahead of Santiago Buitrago. Martin Lass is in 3rd place. So we had 26 riders go on the attack, and they were from a number of different teams. 3 riders from UAE Team Emirates, 2 from Total Energy, 2 riders from Bike Exchange, 1 rider from Lotto Soudal and Caleb Ewan. So he was totally isolated. We had 6 riders from the Quick Step Alpha Vinyl team. The only rider who didn't make it into that front group was Ilya Kaiser. Then we had 2 riders from the Bora Hansgrohe team, Jordi Meus and Danny Van Poppel. From Bahrain, we only had Kamil Gradek. So Santiago Buitrago was dropped early on the stage. Simone Consoni was in the lead from the Cofidis team. Simone Consoni was in the leading group for Cofidis. Dan McClay was in there for Arkea Samsic. We had a couple of riders from the Alpecin Fenix team in De Haas and Planquet. B&B Hotels were represented by 4 riders who made the front group, and Uno X's Anton Charmig made it into the front group as well. So good job for him today. Let's hear then from the rider who is in the was wearing the blue jersey after yesterday's stage. He rode superbly on the run into the finish, and that was Martin Uranstad. He is in the most active rider jersey. So let's hear from him now about yesterday's stage and his thoughts on what's going to happen today.
A very good Saudi Tour for the moment for the Uno X team. You have the blue. Your teammate Charming has the white jersey on his shoulders. He was 3rd today. You must be, as a team, very satisfied.
Yeah, we are really satisfied. The guys are really strong. Also yesterday I got help to be in the breakaway, and today they did a really good job having control in the peloton and bringing Anton in position in the last climb so he could get 3rd on stage. and tomorrow we will have the youth jersey. So 2 jerseys on the same team, that will be good.
And you'll be in the breakaway tomorrow?
We'll see.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, the news is he didn't make the breakaway early on today's stage, so 27 riders actually went clear. One of them was Caleb Ewan, as we get confirmation of Randstad with 17 points, Ozakis on 9, and Myers on 4 points after yesterday's stage. So we had those 27 riders go away. They grew their advantage. Butrago was in a second group on the road, 1 minute behind. We then saw a group of riders yo-yoing between around about 10 seconds off the back of the front group and 15 seconds off the front group, and they tried desperately to get back on. The echelons that had formed really did splinter the race all across the desert. Eventually, just about half an hour ago, the race came all back together with 50 riders at the front, and then we saw an attack. And that attack happened with Anthony Turgis of the Total Energies team, Edward Plankett of the Alpecin Phoenix squad, Benjamin de Klerk of Arkea Samsic. Those 3 riders went clear to try and get themselves up the road, because this is a really toiling, hard stage that they are facing across the desert. As we just take a look there at the Uno X team lineup, Sharmik is riding superbly, 3rd overall at the moment, and is a possible winner of this race overall. Let's keep an eye on him over the coming stages. So we're heading down to AlUla, which is the old town that we will head into. We have got a little bit of a head crosswind still going on as the riders make their way down to the finish. So it's going to cause them all sorts of problems during the stage. We're going across the Charan Nature Reserve. The only time we're really going to get any help with the wind is when they zoom into AlUla, and then it is an absolutely incredible tailwind into the finish. As we look out across the landscape, we're waiting for the riders to come out of this restricted zone. So in the meantime, let's give you a little bit more information on this incredible old town that we are racing into. Let's find out more about AlUla.
Saudi Arabia is going through big changes. This long, inclusive desert view is opening up for the outside world. And for the first time, beginning to welcome international tourists. One of the kingdom's crown jewels is a region in Saudi Arabia's vast northwest called AlUla. This legendary region is famed for its natural beauty, lush oasis valleys, and stunning, well-preserved archaeology. Ahmed Ali grew up here. He's a local historian. Ahmed's on his way to the site, just off the main road of the modern town. Today, it's all over town. For hundreds of years, this is a part of song built from the meadow. Just a few decades ago, Ahmed's family lived here. These homes were more electricity or indoor plumbing. Ahmed's needed a vibrant community built on the colonies and there. Last residents finally left the modern house in the
The town then of AlUla, what originates back to the 6th century BC. It's built in this incredible oasis area. It's the ancient capital of the region, which was run by the Lernites and also known as the Dead Knights. It was on the incense route. Here is the weather conditions: 24 degrees at the start, 23 degrees at the finish. As you can see from our trees there, it is very, very windy at the moment. This little town is absolutely incredible. The Dead Knights, which were really ruling this area from 24 BC, they all lived in this region. The region now has got a population just in this little town area of 5,426 people, and it's an ancient capital of the particular region. The Dead Knights became enemies of the Nabateans, who built Hegra that we went through a couple of days ago, and it's always been an area of interest as far as traders are concerned. So just bear with us. We are waiting to pick up the riders as they come out of this secure area that we are not allowed to film within. Once they come out of that area, then we will pick up with the Peloton. It's a security area of Saudi Arabia. So once we come out of that area, we will pick up with the pictures. With the plane is in the air, the helicopters are in the air, the motorbikes are ready, and the Peloton today, unfortunately, has not been travelling as fast as we normally would have predicted. And that's because, as you can see on the bottom right of the screen, the wind is 45 kilometres an hour, and it is hindering the riders. It is not helping them at all. So it's a very, very tough day out there across the desert today. So we think about the riders and what they've been facing during today's stage. They've had sandstorms. At one point we thought that the race might have to be called off because of the sand blowing right across the road. The echelons had formed. Caleb Ewan's had 2 mechanical issues. He was in the front group as the only member of Lotto Soudal, and then he was unfortunately a victim of a puncture and a mechanical, so he then got dropped. We'll wait and see whether he has been picked back up and managed to get back into that front group. As soon as we have some pictures, we'll get an opportunity to see Caleb and see where he is on the road. Buitrago, we understand, having had a few issues earlier on, he was over a minute behind, is now back in the front group, so he has fought his way back in the green leader's jersey. And just to remind you then that we have in the green jersey Santiago Buitrago of Bahrain victorious, Caleb Ewan in the red jersey of Lotto Soudal, Anton Charmig in the white jersey, the best young rider for UNO-X, and Martin Uranstad in the blue jersey as the most active rider. We're not long now until we pick the riders up. Let's find out a little bit more about this region. A little bit more then about AlUla as we head down towards the Old Town. The race situation as we wait to join up with the riders is as follows. Anthony Turgis is now on the attack. He is 3 minutes and 5 seconds ahead of Nicola Bonifacio and Ilio Kaiser, who were both dropped earlier on today's stage. He's 3 minutes and 5 seconds ahead of those two riders, and then the Peloton are now at 5 minutes and 25 seconds. So the whole situation has completely changed out there on the road. The riders then are approaching the end of this run into the pictures pickup, where we will get all the motorbikes and the helicopters bringing the riders to us. So the race situation then, Turgis leads 3 minutes and 5 seconds ahead of Bonifacio and Kaiser, and then 5:25 ahead of the Peloton right now. So earlier on the day, it was interesting to see the way that Quick Step Alpha Vinyl put themselves in a really strong position in the head crosswinds. They had all but Ilio Kaiser in the front group. They had Baggioli, Ballerini, Tim de Klerk, all in that front group, with Florian Seneschal, Yannick Steimler and Bert van Leeberg. The only rider who did miss it was Ilio Kaiser. He's now got himself back in there as we take a look on the screen there at Terangano Polygon cycling team, who've been on the attack this week with number 131 there, Matt Amin, and also Myers wearing number 132. They've been active in the race. So Quick Step Alpha Vinyl, as you would have expected in a crosswind scenario, they really took the race on and they tried to split the race up. They did put Caleb Ewan and Lotto Soudal under pressure. They did manage to put the green jersey of Buitrago under pressure, which was good news in terms of trying to win today's stage. But now it's all come back together. But Ilio Kaiser, having got back on, has decided to go on the attack with Bonifacio. Bonifacio is a rider who last year did, or not last year, the last time we were here in Saudi Arabia, did win a stage of the Saudi Tour. You may remember him powering his way in to win the second stage of the race. Bonifacio has been pretty active in this race so far, so it's good to see the way that he's already got himself in prime form at this beginning of the season. Bonifacio searching for another stage victory in this Saudi Tour. He took stage number 2 in 2020 ahead of Bauhaus and Buani, who was in third place. But not only that, Bonifacio also took second place on stage 4, where he was behind Buani. So he was very, very active throughout the race in 2020. Clearly enjoys being here in this particular region. So let's just remind you then that the riders, once we pick them up, will go through the intermediate active sprint. They have just gone through that, but they will go through the bonus sprint with 15.7 kilometres of racing to go. Let's just remind you then of the highlights of yesterday's stage. Caleb Ewan in the green jersey as the race leader, looking strong all the way through the day. The main thrust of the stage was all about the run-in to the race finish on stage number 2, where we knew that there was going to be a very tough uphill finish with gradients of around about 12%. And as it happened, that is exactly where the main part of the race really did unfold. We saw various attacks on the final climb of the day. In particular, we saw Daniel Osco clear, but it was these two riders who were left out in the lead on the run-in to the finish. It was Beranstadt and Myers, who were the last two riders standing. Peloton was all together as they raced towards the bottom of that final climb of the day. Eventually, the breakaway group was all reeled in. And then it was all about the climb and who was going to attack. Problems out on the road. Cyril Bart took a little bit of a deviation into the desert. Had to get himself back on the bike as quickly as possible. He did get back in the end. He did rejoin well. As the riders made their way onto the final climb, a lot of riders got dropped very, very early, including Martin Lass in the red jersey for Bora Hansgrohe. At the front, still a nice compact peloton. On the final parts of the slopes, it was the Colombian Buitrago who tried to go clear. He was matched by the big powerhouse from the classics, Daniel Oss. He went across onto the wheel. With 500 meters to go, eventually Baggioli jumped across. They dropped Daniel Oss. And then Buitrago played a very, very clever game. He tried to maneuver anyone who was with him. First professional victory of his career. A win for Buitrago of Bahrain victorious, with Baggioli in second place. The Uno X rider Anton Charmig was in third place, and Caleb Ewan surprised many with his position in the top 10. A day that Buitrago of Bahrain victorious will always remember. His first professional victory, a very, very important one for him and his team. Well, thanks for joining us. We're down in AlUla for the finish. The old town here is incredibly historic. We took a little bit of a walk around it earlier. We're just waiting for the plane to pick up the cameras and give us the live pictures. We will see the last 50 kilometers of racing today. The weather conditions, the wind has meant that the peloton has had a bit of a toiling day since the race start, coming out of Tema Haraj well. 181.2 kilometers of racing for the peloton today, but it's not been an easy one, and there's going to be a few tired legs on today's race. We started at the Haraj well near the Tema city centre. It's considered to be one of the largest wells in the Arabia Peninsula. It was dug and constructed in the 6th century BC, and it was said to be buried when the flood disaster hit Tema, and centuries later it was then reconstructed. So we started out there. We made our way through Arada, through the feeding zone close to there, over a little crest of a climb at Hassat al-Dab. Then we worked our way down to the second active sprint of the day. And we're going to go past Elephant Rock as well for today's race finish. Elephant Rock is one of the incredible rock structures that are in this region. That's where the team presentation took place on the night before the race got underway. So in a few moments the riders will come out of this secure zone and we will pick up with the live action. Thanks for your patience. You might have time to just get a little snack or a little bit of refreshment before we do go live to the race, so feel free, just keep one eye on the screen or one ear just listening to me, because as soon as we see these riders, then we'll make sure that you know that it's time to settle down in front of the screen and see stage 3 of the Saudi Tour today. Great situation then, Anthony Turgis alone in the lead, toiling into this very, very difficult wind. Bonifacio and Kaiser, and here we are now with live pictures. This is our lone leader. Anthony Turgis has emerged from our secure zone, and he is working his way towards the race finish today. Fantastic performance by this rider from Total Energy, the team that's been completely revamped by the arrival of Peter Sagan. Turgis is looking like he is going strongly at the moment, still maintaining a good tempo, a good pace, sitting in a relatively big gear as he just rolls that along. The 27-year-old rider from Bourg-la-Reine, from France. He's a winner of the Boucle de la Mayenne, and he was also second in 2019 in Dwars d'Or of Flandre. He's had a few victories in his career, 6 wins so far for Anthony Turgis, and wouldn't it be wonderful if he could just time trial his way into victory today and outwit any of the sprinters who are in that second group of riders behind. He would completely outwit them. He won his first ever victory on the 6th of June 2015, stage 2 of the Boucle de la Mayenne. His last victory was quite a long time ago, the 29th of September 2019, so 2.5 years ago, and that was at Paris-Chauny. On that day, Anthony Turgis came in with a group with Robin Carpenter of the Rally UHC team and Nans Peters of Agi Desert Le Mondial. He was in 3rd place, so he won that little group sprint on a race that takes the riders from Compiègne, just outside Paris, to Chauny, 203.7 kilometers of racing. So he's a rider who likes to be in the breakaways. This is where the riders will race in to the finish today. It's a little uphill sprint. They come round the corner, bearing round to the left-hand side, slightly uphill, so you've got to time your sprint if you are in a group to perfection. Otherwise you could have a few issues. You might just fade just before the line. A reminder then that Turgis is the leader with Bonifacio and Kaiser at 3 minutes and 5 seconds. The peloton are at 5 minutes and 25 seconds at this moment. So they really need to start to shift a little bit if they're going to bring Anthony Turgis back in time for him not to win today's stage. "50 kilometers to go." Here is Turgis. See just how hard it is, can't you? As he gets out the saddle with the sunshine right in his face, heading down towards AlUla. He's trying to keep on top of this gear at the moment, but this is not easy at all out there on the road. He's chosen to do it alone, which is pretty unusual. Normally you would, on these sort of conditions, expect to see a little group of riders working together, and as you glance up the road, you can see the sand just blowing across the road in front of him. He'll feel like he's been completely sandblasted by the end of today's stage. See bits and patches of sand all the way across the road. Here's a little graphic to give you an idea where the head of the race is. The wind's blowing now at 47 kilometers an hour. So there's the head of the race. The chasing group are behind, and it looks like there's been a little bit of a merging of groups. Bonifazio and Kaiser were there, but it looks like it's a little bit of a bigger group on the road. We'll get an opportunity to go back and see who is in that second group of riders chasing down our lone leader as he goes inside the final 50 kilometers of racing today. Earlier on today, there was a lot of sand blowing across the road. This is Group 2, which has now started to merge. Kaiser and Bonifazio, we don't think now are in the group. They are back in this group, so they've decided that they are not going to chase the way they were doing. The job is down to Uno X at the moment. The blue jersey, sitting there on the front, doing a good amount of work. That's Martin Oranstad with his teammate on his wheel, Anton Scharmig, who we're starting to think might be a possible winner of this race. 23 years of age, he's a very, very good climber, so when it comes down to stage number 4 tomorrow, he could have a great opportunity of winning the stage. He was the winner of the very famed Taiwan King of the Mountains in 2019. There's been a lot of professional riders who have won that race or gone to that race purely out of interest because it's got so much intrigue about it. It's the longest mountain climb race in the world. And Anton Scharmig has won that in 2019. He was 6th in the Tour of Turkey, 7th in the Tour of Denmark when he was riding for the Uno X development team. And he's also won the King of the Mountains in the Tour of Norway. He comes from Aarhus in Denmark. So I think any of the World Tour teams are thinking that they can write off Anton Scharmig. They certainly can't, because he is a real danger for the overall victory. 1.9 kilometers between Anthony Turgis and the Peloton at the moment. There's the Peloton on our 3D graphic. There's the wind direction blowing right in the face of the riders at the moment. So there's certainly no fast riding being done by any of these riders, and in fact they will be in a headwind all the way until the final few kilometers, where they will turn round and they will feel like they have been shot out of a rocket. They'll get a tailwind and it will be a welcome respite after such a hard day in the saddle. And the sprint is going to be pretty hard to judge because of that, because it is a 45 km/h tailwind that the riders will suddenly find themselves powered into AlUla. Here's Santiago Buitrago in the green jersey, so he is safely in the chase group, albeit 4 minutes and 45 seconds behind. So despite the scare that he had, Buitrago now is in with a chance of holding on to that green jersey if they can bring the gap down just a little bit more, because Anthony Turgis is at 1 minute and 28 seconds down on the current leader. Here's Caleb Ewan. He's safely in that group now as well. He had a couple of mechanicals earlier on today, but Caleb Ewan nicely in the pack. If it all comes together, Caleb Ewan may well be the race favourite today, as we see the arrival now of the team of Bike Exchange putting one rider on the front, and you can see why. 2 reasons. Dylan Groenewegen is in the group, and secondly, if you look on that shoulder as we look at that front shot, AlUla is on the shoulders of Bike Exchange. Here's Ryan Mullen. Ryan Mullen in that white and green jersey as the Irish champion. And here is the best young rider, Anton Charmik. Doesn't look too impressed, does he? See just how hard they are having to pedal. It's a real day, fully on the pedals today. The workload, when they look at their data files tonight, is going to show one huge day in the saddle. You can see the Uno X riders just puffing out the cheeks. This is a very, very tough day of a bike race so early in the season. It will stand some of the classics riders in very good stead. There are times when riders say, when they come to races that are totally flat like this, if there's no wind blowing, they actually detrain. They actually feel like they are less fit than when they came to the race, even although they've had some of that top-end ability tested out in the races. But that's why riders used to go to certainly Tour of Qatar, while they're now going to the UAE Tour, where the wind is blowing and the routes are designed to try and find crosswinds at times. And that's why some of the classics riders will feel, after they've come out of this Saudi Tour, that they've had a really good workout, particularly on a day like today, where they're on the pedals all day. There's no real respite, there's no descents. It's just on the pedals, keep the power on, keep themselves focused, and that's pretty much it. Well, Anthony Turgis has lost around about 100 metres of his lead. He's now 1.8 kilometres ahead of what we're calling the Peloton. It's a group of around about 50 riders. There they are. Now the wind, as you can see, changing direction a little, coming from the right-hand shoulder as the riders make their way across this section. Now you'll notice that this diagonal formation is being used by the riders. This is what we call an echelon, or a bordeaux in France. And it's a diagonal line where the riders shelter each other across the road. As you can see from this particular echelon, the riders are not in an attacking echelon. Sometimes you will see the riders only prepared to give about half the road to the other riders. Here, the teams are quite happy to shelter the other riders and hopefully then benefit from them coming up and giving them a little bit of a turn and a bit of a share of the pace making. This is one of the sprinters, Dylan Groenewegen. His first race for the Bike Exchange team. The team now on giant bikes, as you can see, and a completely revamped look and setup for this squad. It was predominantly an Australian team. Now it's very cosmopolitan. And the setup has been revamped with the arrival of a different set of management. Still some of the same sports directors. They have lost some of the riders in the winter break. The likes of Esteban Chavez have gone to EF. And it has been a reshuffle and a revamp with the arrival of Dylan Groenewegen, which adds a little bit more firepower to the team as far as sprinting is concerned, because of course they've got Michael Matthews, who's such a wonderful sprinter. And if he's backed up and been given the ability to not always have all the pressure on his shoulders, then Michael Matthews will deliver for the Bike Exchange team during the 2022 season. He had a season last year where the winds just didn't flow, and it may well have been because there was just that little bit too much pressure, having moved from the team of DSM over to Bike Exchange for the 2022 season. Thanks for joining us. This is the race situation. Just to update you, if you've just joined us now, we had a group of 27 riders go clear earlier on in the stage, as we get a glimpse here at Urianstad of Uno X. 27 riders went clear. Caleb Ewan had 2 mechanical problems. One was a puncture. He was dropped. He's now back in this chasing group, luckily. We also saw the green jersey under pressure, Santiago Butrago. He was 1 minute down at one point. Things came together. Turgis went on the attack with Bonifacio and Kaiser. And now we have one lone leader in Anthony Turgis of the Total Energies team, with this group of riders chasing behind. And I won't say they're chasing hard, they are chasing as hard as they can because of this 45km/h wind. See, it's a slow march, a slow trudge down to AlUla today. Turgis is trying to find any little bit of shelter he possibly can. There's a reminder of his victories. Grand Prix La Marseillaise in 2019 and the Classic Loire Atlantique in 2016. Just does his shoes up there, just to see whether he can get a little bit more power out of the pedals. On the front of his bike, he's got that little head unit, which will give him all the data he's looking for. So he'll have his power output, his speed, and he'll be looking at it thinking, please go a little bit quicker. Surely I can find just a little bit more power. But the legs will be telling him, and his back and everything today will be telling him, this is about as fast as we're going to let you go. It is one of those days, if you are a bike rider or you've been out in a headwind, where you are able to keep the pressure on for a longer period of time. If you're feeling good, if you're not feeling good, this is one of those days you would rather forget. And after a while, everything hurts. All the little niggles you have, if you don't like riding in the wind, they start to hurt you. So you get that scenario where your back starts to hurt. The legs are hurting. You don't feel comfortable in the saddle. You start to get a bit grumpy, I suppose. Just one of those days that you just really don't want to enjoy at all. Here's Buitrago, taking on a little bit of nourishment at the moment. Very important for these riders on a day like today to ensure that they are hydrated, they take on the right levels of electrolytes, they take on the right levels of food. Your performance can be particularly adversely affected on a day like today because you are suffering and you start to forget to take on the right levels of nutrition and hydration. So it's very important for the sports directors to remind the riders in their race radios, keep taking on little bits of nutrition all the time. Take on a little bit of food, take on some electrolyte, take on some water, and make sure that you replace the sodium that you're losing in the sweat that is appearing. And at the end of this stage today, the riders, if you look at those jerseys, some riders will be absolutely caked in sweat. The salt will be all over the jerseys, and they've got to try and replace those salts that they are sweating continuously, particularly in these desert conditions where it's such a dry heat as well. You just forget sometimes when you're under this sort of pressure to stay in the group. Certainly you can take on your electrolytes, but you forget to take on the carbs that your body also needs. Here's our lone leader. Let's just remind you then, this rider looking for a victory for Total Energy, the French squad. Turgis has decided to try and go out there alone, do something about trying to give a victory for this team. Every now and then you just see a little bit more speed in those pedals as he gets a little bit of shelter. So far as results are concerned for this season, they haven't got a victory yet, so they are looking for their first win of the season. So there's so many reasons why Anthony Turgis, if he could win today's stage, it would be a very, very good day for them, particularly with such a huge investment into the entourage of Peter Sagan. And Sagan, starting his season a little bit late, he's contracted COVID again after contracting it last season as well. But Sagan is now training, and hopefully he'll be ready for the classics and can give Total Energy a big victory during the early season classics. So the pacemaking being shared. The blue jersey happy to sit up there near the front of the peloton. It's Martin Urianstadt. He seemed pretty happy last night that the team had a couple of jerseys. Every now and then where the wind direction changes, he's having to switch himself across the road. Urianstadt makes his way over to the left-hand side now to just try and shelter some of the riders to his right-hand side. Now he also gets a little bit of assistance. One rider from Bike Exchange decides to go up and support the effort as well. X looking strong with a number of their riders up there. And maybe the other team's getting a little bit concerned that the crosswinds might cause another echelon here. They will not want to be chasing like they've had to do during today's stage. On the front of the group then is Jan Maas from the team of Bike Exchange. Look at the way that this sand is just blowing across the road. It's real desert conditions, isn't it? Does his shoes up again. The riders have got these little connectors on their shoes. They're called boa connectors. And it basically means that they can just do a little turn, ratchets the shoe in a little bit more tightly, and gives the rider just a feeling like they've got a bit more power going through the pedals. But those boa connectors give the riders a really nice little adjustment, micro adjustment really on the shoe. So it just feels like, right, I've got a little bit more power, a little bit more motivation. Thank you very much for joining me. If you'd like to be in touch, please feel free to get in touch on social media at Ant McCrossan. I'm on all social media if you'd like to get in touch. Got plenty of time today because the kilometres are ticking down pretty slowly for us to go through a few little questions if you have them. Jan Durant, thank you for your message. The riders must be breathing bricks back out by the end of the day. Absolutely. There is so much sand going in this atmosphere. You just saw Turgis just licking his lips because you do feel like your lips are dry all the time in this sort of conditions. And it's very strange because over the last 48 hours, it has been really cold here. The riders will have wondered what's happened overnight because during the last 48 hours and longer since we've been here, once the sun goes down, it is absolutely freezing. The temperature drops to around about 0 degrees. Whereas this morning, when everyone got up and walked outside, the temperature was already around 14, 15 degrees. It was totally different last night. And the wind has also changed. So before, we were getting this really chilly wind that was blowing across the desert. And now it's a warm wind that has started to blow. So that's changed things quite considerably. Everyone was walking around weirdly in the desert in puffer jackets, down jackets, whereas now they're all in their t-shirts. The wind direction coming from the left-hand side, but pretty much a headwind. And it's 46 kilometers an hour now. The lead of Turgis is coming down and it's tumbling pretty quickly. 40 kilometers to go and it's now 3:09. He's lost 2 minutes in the last 20 kilometers. Our blue jersey still working hard. How much work has this rider done in this year's race? He's either been in the breakaway for the last 2 days or he has been on the front of the peloton, sharing the work, doing what he's being asked as a professional bike rider. Oh, problem here. One rider having an issue. This is one of the Cofidis riders who's by the side of the road. You do not want to puncture on a day like this. Once you're alone, you can lose minutes. You just lose minutes every 10 kilometers. And who is this that's at the side of the road? It looks to me like it's Ruben Fernandez. Ruben Fernandez wearing number 73 from the Cofidis team. Ruben Fernandez left at the side of the road. Let's just take a little look. There he is, stopping at the side of the road. Puncture for him. There's lots of little bits of gravel, a few little rocks here or there that have been blown out of the desert side. Can he get himself back in through that race convoy? Thanks very much for joining me. 39 kilometers now to go on today's stage of the Saudi Tour. Our lone leader, Anthony Turgis, there he is, wearing number 16. We should just will him on. He's a rider who really would love to bring home a victory, but his gap is tumbling. I know many of you like to know the situation with the commissaires yesterday. Did they fine anybody? The answer is yes, they had a field day. They fined a number of different team directors yesterday. All of the team directors were given a 200 Swiss franc fine for not respecting the instructions of the commissaires. And those team directors who were given a slap on the wrist last night, Fabio Baldato of UAE Team Emirates. I think what we should do during the season is keep a tally on how many times Fabio Baldato is fined during the season in races that we all join each other for, because he is a constant offender, Fabio Baldato. Always on the list of the decision of commissaires. Dylan Groenewegen. Groenewegen waiting for the team car. He has a problem now. Groenewegen, nice and relaxed, doesn't seem too concerned. Just deciding to have a little bit of food. Look how chilled out Dylan Groenewegen is. Obviously feels like he can get himself back in. The mechanic very quickly changing the wheel, and a big shove for Dylan Groenewegen. Getting underway, he's in the convoy, so now he needs to chase, get himself around some of the cars and get himself back into the race. So I'm wondering whether his teammates will peel off the front. Here is Rudiger Selig. He crashed earlier on today, as you can see from the battle scars on the left-hand side, and unfortunately Rudiger Selig is out of the race. The soigneurs are looking after him. They're giving him a little bit of food, giving him some lunch. But unfortunate, not just for him, but also for Caleb Ewan, because Caleb was saying how good it was to have Rudiger Selig in the team. Buitrago in the green jersey, our race leader overall on time. 38 kilometers to go. Let's go back to the situation of the fines. Yesterday, Baldato was fined. Dominic Arnaud of the Total Energies team was also fined, as was Rolf Aldag of Bora Hansgrohe. Franco Pelizzotti of Bahrain Victorious was fined too, and Thierry Marichal of the Cofidis team, he was fined 200 Swiss francs. So yesterday, the UCI commissaire managing to bring in 1,000 Swiss francs during the stage. for each of those team managers for not respecting the instructions of the commissaires. There were also 3 riders who crashed yesterday: Jared Drisners of Lotto Soudal, Maxim van Gils of Lotto Soudal, and Cyril Lemoine of B&B Hotels KTM. All of them had multiple abrasions to skin after their crashes. Caleb Ewan posted on his social media last night a photo of Jared Drisners, if you want to take a look, as we see the arrival back already. Dylan Groenewegen, that's why he was so chilled out. He rejoins the peloton. Two minutes and 11 seconds for our lone leader. His lead is tumbling pretty sharpish. How slowly are the riders covering the kilometres, though? You take a look, we're now at 37 kilometres to go. 46 km/h wind into the head. In 3 kilometres, our lone leader has lost a minute. His lead is crumbling, and it's crumbling fast. You do have to admire the way he has gone out on the road and tried to win this race for his French squad. But the riders are sharing the pacemaking on the front. Rider from Bike Exchange, Jan Maas, Rianstad also, and Lotto Soudal contributing to the pace. They are bringing this down, and they will bring it together pretty soon, I think. X all lined out. They're riding as one of the strongest teams in this race. Then you see Bahrain victorious with Santiago Buitrago up towards the front. They're leaving nothing to chance at the moment. They are making sure that their leader doesn't have to chase like he did earlier on in the race. The wind drops a little. It will feel like total respite. It's dropped by 20 km/h. And it does feel here at the finish like the temperature's starting to drop a little, and that the wind has dropped a little bit too. This is Bonifacio wearing number 11. His teammate up the road, and it looks like Turgis has decided, I'm not so sure about this anymore. This is hurting way too much. But I'm sure the team director will be trying to motivate him a little, although I haven't seen the team car come up to him at all to have a conversation. Normally, the team car would come up and just keep him going. Dominic Arnaud would be saying to him, just keep it going for as long as possible. Try and stay there in the lead. 1:47. The question about how this race is going to unfold over the closing stages is going to be an interesting one, because we will turn that corner, we will go into a very strong tailwind, and the sprinters in this group will be just thinking about another big sprint into the finish. Well, thanks very much for joining me for this Saudi tour, as we see Buitrago with a little bit of food in his mouth there. The riders will be taking on a little bit of a mix of different foods during today's stage. They'll take some solid food on, they'll have some gels. Their drinks will be a mixture of electrolytes and water. And each rider can be a little bit different as far as their nutrition is concerned. So, for instance, in the DSM team, as we just take a look at the lineup of the Uno X squad, Likra's their sprinter, Sharmik is the rider in the white jersey. So DSM, for example, and there's a few DSM riders in here, have got real, more tailored nutrition for each of their riders. So normally, after the stage, their riders, particularly in the Grand Tours, will advise the nutrition team of their daily intake on the bike. So how many bars they took, how many gels they took on the bike. And then the nutrition team take the data from what they did that day on the bike, so how many calories burned from the data you see in the head units they've got on the cockpit of the bike. They'll look at what they've already replaced, and then they work out to the gram what they should then eat for dinner. And on a Grand Tour, the chefs then cook to that formula and give the riders exactly what they need in a Grand Tour. So they keep their weight fluctuation to an absolute minimum, and it helps their performance, and it helps against sickness and everything else. This is Bahrain victorious, the lineup with Butrago in the green jersey. He's supported by Gradek, Machuk, Madan, Milan, Sutalin, who's moved to this team now, and Fred Wright. That's the squad. So nutrition and hydration absolutely key to the riders. You'll also have noticed during the last, I guess, 2 years, that there's been monitors now that some of the teams are using, particularly in training. They're not allowed to use them in racing, the likes of the Super Sapiens monitor, which is a blood glucose monitor, and that has data that the riders in their training can really work out how their glucose levels and their glycogen stores really react during the race, so, or during a training session. So then when they get into a race, they can use that knowledge that they've got to keep their nutrition at the right sort of levels. So they'll understand, and each person is totally different, and sports nutrition is becoming very much like that. It's all about each individual person having their nutrition and hydration tailored specifically to them, because what's right for Daniel Oss in the squad is not like for Anthony Turgis in the team. Their bodies are totally different, their metabolism is different, and so therefore each individual rider is learning what is good for them, how their body reacts, and then they're putting that to good use from their training sessions into their racing. And that's why teams like DSM and other squads are having these very tailored nutrition programs. And whether you're in the men's peloton or the women's programs as well in races, the riders are benefiting from all this advice. And you've even got to the point now where the women's teams are professional enough that they've even got their own chefs starting to happen. So in particular, you look at SD Works, Shara Marche is now their food coach. She's the rider she's the coach who's come out of being a pro bike rider. She's now put herself in a position where she has studied nutrition. She understands about the nutritional intake of the food. She understands what a bike rider wants and needs after a stage. And she cooks and develops the food for the SD Works squad, the likes of Ashley Moorman-Passio, Chantal Vandenbroek Black, and the other riders in that team. The pace continues. It's a slow trudge to AlUla at the moment. Whilst we're mentioning the team of SD Works, they had their team launch yesterday, the women's peloton, and we must just say a very quick thought to Amy Peters, and in particular friends and family at the moment, as Amy still remains in a coma after a crash in Spain just before Christmas. We all know Amy very well. We know her from being a wonderful world champion on the track and an amazing bike rider on the road. And we hope that Amy wakes up soon and all starts to progress. We know that she's breathing on her own, but she is still kept in a coma, and we hope that things improve for her very, very soon. 33 kilometers to go. Anthony Turgis still in the lead with 1 minute 33 seconds. He's done another 4 kilometres and he's lost another 41 seconds in that 4 kilometre time scale. Just a reminder then of what has happened on today's stage so far. Today the riders are heading down to AlUla for stage number 3. It's a long stage again of 181.2 kilometres. As we look at the graphic here, the wind is starting to change to become more of a crosswind. It's now at 40 kilometres an hour, which means that we might see a little bit of echelon action. Let's just see whether any of the teams start to accelerate. Earlier on in today's stage, the riders were enduring a crosswind and a head crosswind, and that meant that the race split to pieces. 27 riders emerged at the front. We saw the green jersey in difficulty. We saw Rui Costa in difficulty. We saw Caleb Ewan have 2 mechanical problems and be out the back. We also saw a crash of Rudi Selig, who is now out of the race. Martin Lass also crashed on the stage as well. So it was a chaotic start to what has been a very tough day in the saddle. The race situation, Turgis leads, and now, as you can see, a labouring peloton at 1 minute 22 seconds. If you'd like to get in touch, please do at McCrossan on social media. I'll take any of your questions today, and thanks very much for getting in touch throughout the race. Number 111 there is Cyril Bart. He had some problems yesterday where he ran off the road, but he's safely back in here today, riding for the team of B&B Hotels. Cyril Bart at the moment is 21 seconds down on the general classification, surrounded by the rest of his teammates. See at the front, it's really very, very hard. Further on down the peloton, as you can see, it's a day of freewheeling. Now that we've turned into a slightly different situation with the wind. Cyril Bart then has never won a race in his career. He's 25 years of age, comes from Sauveterre de Béarn in France. Used to ride for the Euskaltel team. Started with a stagiaire team role with Euskaltel, Murias in 2017. Then he rode for the Euskaltel Pro Continental team in 2018 and 2019 before he moved to the B&B Hotels squad in 2020, and he has a contract till the end of 2023. Now this peloton, I think, are starting to play games with Anthony Turgis, because they've decided that they don't want to bring him back, and as you can see there from the speed of this peloton, they're letting him just sit out there at 1 minute 22 seconds. There's no longer this full-on chase going on, and so they know they can bring him back, but they are just letting him suffer a little bit longer. They carried it out there, but they're not prepared to catch it yet. A little caption, isn't Santiago Buitrago, so don't worry about something you've missed, that he's up the road. Buitrago is back in the peloton at the moment. He is safely there though. So the current race situation, as far as the stage yesterday is concerned, Buitrago took the victory out of Baggioli and Sharmig, which left Buitrago in the lead by 7 seconds from Caleb Ewan. Anton Sharmig in third place. He's now at 13 seconds. Behind him is Rui Costa. Then it's Maxime Van Gils at 17 seconds, followed by the tractor himself, Tim de Klerk, at 20 seconds. He's in 6th place. And there's a big group of riders at 21 seconds, including Simone Consoni, Cyril Bart, Danny Van Poppel, Ruben Fernandez, Rui Oliveira. Daniel Oss is also in that group, as is Lawson Craddock, who we've not even seen in the race yet in his new team colours of Bike Exchange. Give us your predictions then. Who do you think is going to win today's stage? We're at 10 to 5 in the afternoon here in Saudi Arabia. Most of the sprinters, I think, are in that chasing group of around about 50 riders. Still, our rider in the blue jersey continues with his workload. I think this Uno X team deserve to give this rider a big bonus. He has constantly been on the front. In the last 2 days, he's done an exceptional amount of work. And today, he has continued with his impressive way of taking on this Saudi Tour. It's a very, very strong way of riding a bike race. Let's a look at the formation of the peloton. There's going to be some riders who are in groups behind who are going to lose a fair amount of time today. The Lanterne Rouge, or the last rider in the general classification at the moment, is Andrea Baggioli. Despite yesterday, he is still at 19 minutes and 45 seconds. That was after his crash on the gravel on day number 1. The riders still thinking about tomorrow now and taking on a little bit more fuel. Riders who are sitting in the 2nd or 3rd row will not even notice the wind now, such is the pace in this group. There's a few riders not prepared to do anything, are they? They're just sitting in the wheels and letting other riders do all the work. And sitting on the far right-hand side, far left as we look, you'll feel like you're totally out of the wind and there'll be no issues whatsoever. There is Buitrago, and he's never going to ask his team to set the tempo. He's happy just to let this rider stay out in the front at 1 minute 34 seconds. Next on the horizon for Anthony Turgis is the bonus sprint at 15.7 kilometres to go. He'll have 3 bonus seconds on offer there, 2 for 2nd place and 1 for 3rd place. Turgis at the moment, if he can maintain this sort of pace in towards that bonus sprint, that will stand him in good stead to move up the classification just a small amount. A few conversations will start to go on. And the likes of Caleb Ewan will be talking to his team and working out how do they bring home his 2nd win of the season. Anthony Turgis at 1 minute 28 seconds down on the classification. He's 33rd overall. So his real aim here is to try and win the stage, but I don't know whether the peloton are going to let anything like that happen. Surely they are not going to make a mistake. The riders will also be thinking about tomorrow. We go to the sky views of Harat Uwairid. It's up into the volcanoes. We ride from Winter Park, where we started a couple of days ago, and we head up to those sky views of Harat Uwairid. It's a very tough finish tomorrow that the riders will face. We've got gradients of nearly 19% when the riders get to 1.5 kilometers into the final climb tomorrow. Final climb tomorrow, 2.8 kilometers at 12%. So the average is pretty fearsome. And over the final run-in to the finish at 2.8 kilometers after they start the climb, you've still got gradients of 14.7% at the top. So it's going to be one of those days, once we kind of get a gentle run-in, around about 3%, then 8%, then it rears up to 16.5%, then nearly 19%, then just under 13%, then rears back up at the top to almost 15%. It's going to be a very tough day on the roads to sky views of Harat Uwairid. Thanks very much for being in touch during this year's race, the second edition of the Saudi Tour. We arrived here a little bit earlier and we decided to take on the little trip around the old town, which dates back to the 6th century BC. If you look on my social media, you'll get a chance to see some of the pictures that we managed to take as we wandered around. This is the head of the race. There's the peloton. The head of the race at 50 kilometers an hour now. The peloton at 46 kilometers an hour. And the distance is just around a kilometer between the two groups. The wind speed still 39.6 kilometers an hour. 25 kilometers of racing to go. Anthony Turgis has got that welcome 25 kilometers to go. And as I mentioned earlier on, this is one of those days where you're on the pedals all the time and everything hurts. If your saddle position is slightly not to your liking, or the new saddle that you've got on your bike for 2022 has been playing on your mind, your hands get sore, your backside gets sore, your back gets sore. It's just a trudge. It's a horrible day. It's beautiful as far as the scenery and the desert is concerned, and the sunshine is out and everything else. But when you are toiling into a headwind like this, some people absolutely love it. Others just feel every nickel and every little bit of pain. We've all been there. It can be just one of those days. It looks like Anthony Turgis is at that point. Just adjusting the shorts, trying to get some respite from feeling a little bit sore. Let's see whether he can build this advantage, because if this peloton miscalculate, Turgis can still win the stage. So as I was mentioning earlier on, we had a little wander around this old town, which is just across the road from where I'm commentating right now. As I look out, got these incredible rocky formations, and then a town which dates back to the 6th century BC. Little alleyways and walkways that you wander your way through. And when you emerge on the other side, you've got the souk, the market, and a long road which is now being really renovated in terms of tourism, so that it becomes an attractive tourism destination. And it is already, because you've got these incredible little old streets that you go through where the walkway is just above your head. It's pretty incredible. The lighting and the sunshine is amazing. You come out on the other side and you make your way up to the souk, and you can turn left or right. And we turned right and we wander our way along, and we found a cafe which was in the open air with all the Arabic colours and textures and textiles. And we settled down, and we were lucky to have Hassan with us, who is from Riyadh here in Saudi Arabia. So he managed to, as we just get a little bit of an update from the race direction car. That's going to give him a little bit more motivation. 23 kilometres to go, 2 minutes. It gets out of the saddle, a long uphill drag here. It's only 1 or 2%, but it's just causing him a few issues. So we settled down in this little cafe earlier on, and Hassan, who's with us he's lived in Saudi Arabia all his life. He helped us choose a few things as we take a look here at the Irish champion in that white and green jersey. That's Ryan Mullen. So we ended up with what is called mutabak. And our Arabic commentator took mutabak with cheese, which is like a bread filled with cheese that is all made there in front of you by hand. So they got the dough out and got all that together. It was very tasty indeed. And then we chose banana ones as well. Settled down, enjoyed looking out over the old town, which the riders are going to race into, as we just take a look here at the head unit of Anthony Turgis. He's keeping an eye on the data and the speed. We paired that up with a little bit of green tea this afternoon, settled down, looked out over the beautiful countryside. Just in front of us is the old hammam, which was the shower and bath house of the 6th century old town of AlUla, which is largely now under disrepair. But that's where the spring used to flow into this old town, and where everybody used to wash their laundry and be able to have a hammam bath and a shower and everything else. Very impressive indeed. So we settled down there and enjoyed ourselves for an hour or so, because we knew the commentary was going to be very late this afternoon. 22.5 kilometres to go. 1:47 for Turgis. The peloton now being led by Lotto Soudal and by Martin Urianstadt of the Uno X team, sitting in that blue jersey, the most active rider. Just remind you then that we have the bonus sprint at 15.7 kilometres to go, just before we get to a town called Al Fursan. We do not turn into a tailwind until 2 kilometres to go. Rui Costa, former world champion, he won that in Firenze in Italy on a horrible day, a complete contrast to today. Absolutely pouring down with rain. He won it on incredibly slick roads. The Italians had resurfaced the road with hot mix, a little bit like Formula One. And on slick roads, you had to stay upright. Rui Costa managed to do that, rode superbly, and took the victory in the end. Thanks very much for joining us for the race today. Quick Step Alpha Vinyl are starting to make their way forward for Ballerini. There they are, there's the lineup. Baggioli is the rider who was second yesterday. Ballerini, who has been in the mix already in this race. Then it's de Klerk, Kaiser, Florian Seneschal, Steimler and Van Leeberg. That's the team of Quick Step. They will look for Ballerini today. They'll try and bring him the victory. So far in the sprints, it was Ewan, Las, Gaviria, De Bust who led out Caleb Ewan, Bonifacio and Gross. They were the top 6. On day 1, Ewan took the leader's jersey. Las was in red, Urianstadt was in white, and Sorzakis was in the blue jersey. Yesterday that switched around a little bit. Butragos took the green, Ewan took the red, Sharmik took white, and Urianstadt took the blue jersey. Ryan Mullen, who's switched over from the Trek Segafredo team. Very good time trialist Ryan Mullen. Just looking for the team car to come up to him. The riders are allowed to feed until 15 kilometres to go. So Ryan Mullen just going back to the car to take on maybe that last little bit of food before feeding is closed. It's going to be quite interesting to see how this Bora Hansgrohe team gel and what victories they get, because they really have changed and brought in some riders. They've moved Sam Bennett across from Quick Step. They've brought Ryan Mullen in from the team of Trek Segafredo. They've also brought Marco Haller across. Jai Hindley, who was on the podium of the Giro, to Theo Gegenhardt. You may remember that when he was beaten in the final time trial. So Jai Hindley's joined. They've also got joining the squad. They've kept some of the team, but they've got Vlasov as well, signed until 2024. So Bora Hansgrohe, complete transformation. It's going to be see how they gel and how they do in both the Grand Tours and, of course, in the sprints in all the various races and the classic bike races that we're used to seeing them performing. 20 kilometres to go. 1:37 is now the advantage. Turgis trying to stay as low as possible. Can he do it? Is he able to just outwit this peloton? Has he played the game well? Riders now arriving on the front for the Quick Step team. Second place rider is still the Bike Exchange rider that we've seen there all the time, Jan Maas. Quick Step bringing riders forward. There is Tim de Klerk. They're getting ready to unleash Ballerini. Randstad talking into his race radio, trying to hear what is going on. Tim de Klerk with the little bit of a grimace on his face, showing those white teeth. And now Quick Step have decided, right, we need to sort this out. We need to close this up and bring this race back together. Quick Step have gone half road, as you can see. They're not letting riders shelter too much. They're trying to take the sting out of some of the riders in this group, some of the sprinters, by not giving them too much shelter. Race direction come up and show him the boards. The gap is tumbling very, very quick. The evening sun of the desert in the eyes of Anthony Turgis. This rider in the blue jersey has just got the most incredible way of pedaling. So strong on the bike, isn't he? The arms locked out pretty much. And he just rolls a massive gear along. He looks so comfortable. It looks like he's totally effortless the way he rides. How many pedal revs Jan Maas on the front is doing in comparison to Randstad? "26 seconds now the lead." The bonus sprint is coming up. It is 2 kilometers away. It looks like the peloton have decided, let's bring this back before this sprint. A little bit of a speed bump, of which there are many in Saudi Arabia. Last night when we were driving back from the stage, which was about a 200k drive, there are speed ramps that are there to catch you out all over the place. And most of them aren't painted, so you never get the chance to see them coming up. So you're zooming along, and you suddenly see a speed bump, and you have to slam the brakes on, get over the speed bump, and then carry on again. It is one of those things that you have to be very alert to. A little bit of a study there of Victor Della Parte, wearing number 12. And Jasper de Bust just in front, wearing number 32. So de Bust will be ready to lead out Caleb Ewan again. 24 seconds. Turgis looking like he's in a skin suit today. He is. He's got all the aero kit on that he can possibly wear. Trying to cut his way through this annoying headwind. He put on the deep section carbon fibre wheels today as well, by the looks of things. And Uranstad is back on the front. There's a much more impetus now in this group. You can hear the whooshing of the wheels, the squeaking of the brakes. 1 minute now the lead, so the time gap is not quite right. 1 minute the lead for Turgis, so it's not tumbled as quickly as we thought. He's looking for this bonus situation. Helicopter shot, just picking up this peloton with all the team cars lined out behind. 1 kilometre until feeding closes. And it's 500 metres now to the most active rider sprint, the bonus sprint coming up. This will give the first rider across the line 3 seconds. 2 seconds to the second place rider. 1 second to the third place rider. Now, bearing in mind what the situation is in the general classification, there could be an opportunity here to close up on the overall lead. Buitrago is the leader, Caleb Ewan at 7 seconds, Sharmig is at 13, so there's still 2 seconds and 1 second on offer after Anthony Turgis makes his way across this bonus sprint line. All-important part of today's stage, 15.7 kilometres to go. Our lone leader is from Total Energy. It is Anthony Turgis. He takes the 3 bonus seconds. Very well done to this rider from France, where many riders are choosing to sit in the wheels. This rider is trying to dish it out to everybody else. Here goes the sprint. And it is the Uno X team who are going to try and play the cards. It's Sharmig who fancies the opportunity of getting a bonus here, but he's going to be outwitted. And he is outwitted by both Rui Costa on one side and a teammate of Bahrain Victorious on the other, Yasha Sutalin. Sharmig went for it. He knew that that could help him close in on the race leader. But they're up against a World Tour competition who don't make mistakes like that. Yasha Sutalin doing a wonderful job for Santiago Buitrago there. And Rui Costa yet again sneaks some seconds. Let's take a look at the replay. Uno X got this going, but they went just a little bit too early. You can't do that to Rui Costa and Yasha Sutalin. because they will put you to the sword. And that's exactly what they've done here. Sharmik went way too early, and Suterlin thought, I'll take the 2 bonus seconds, and Costa sneaked 1. That means now that Rui Costa, as a result of that sprint, will now be equal on time with Sharmik. Both equal 3rd place now. Now we turn our attention to the run into the finish. 14.6 kilometers to go. There is our lone leader, and he is about to be caught. Many congratulations then to Anthony Turgis. He has put up a valiant effort out there in the front. Any moment now, his time in the lead is going to be over. He glances round again. He almost says, come on, guys, put me out of my misery. (5:15) in the afternoon. This race started at just after 12 o'clock. They've been in the saddle for over 5 hours. The slowest schedule today was for this race to have finished 22 minutes ago. And we've still got 14 kilometers to go. 13.9 kilometers to go. Turgis is caught, and we're heading now for a bunch sprint. Elio Kaiser working hard on the front. Behind him is still Maas, then Uri Anstadt. We're going to search out AlUla for the race finish now. Here is Elephant Rock, this magnificent structure that has been crafted by the weather in this region. The wind, the sand and everything else. It lies 11 kilometers northeast of the province, a height of 52 meters. Looks like an elephant with his trunk in the ground. It's also surrounded by hundreds of other rock monoliths. It's thought that this rocky mountain has taken millions of years to take that shape. It's all about the erosion in this particular region. It's where the team presentation took place a few days ago. "13 kilometers to go. Who do you think's going to win today's stage? Because the sprinters are now getting ready. Is it going to be Caleb Ewan with another victory? To give you an idea of the run-in, 5 kilometers to go. The riders go down past the sack on the right-hand side. 4,000 meters. They start to turn towards the left a little bit. Then there's a little bit of a kink left and then a right to 3,000 meters to go. Down through 2,000 meters to go. They go round a roundabout and do a complete turn, fully back on themselves, through 1 kilometer to go, and then it's a straight run in until they get to around about, I guess, 400 meters to go. They go off the main road and turn left up towards the old town, and it's kind of bearing around to the left, slightly uphill to the race finish at the top of a rise with a bit of a gradient, but nothing majorly steep. It's a long drag, so it will suit a powerhouse sprinter. I think the top 3 riders today are likely to be Caleb Ewan, Dylan Groenewegen, Fernando Gaviria. Those are the 3 riders it really does suit today for the race finish. But give me your prediction. Someone else might sneak out of here and take it. There is Jascha Sütterlin. Great job done by him earlier on. In that first sprint, it gave us a bit of a flavour as to how the sprinters were going. Ewan took it. Lass was second, but Lass has crashed today. He's back there. Oh, and here we go. The attack has started, and we suddenly get an acceleration, and Quick-Step have decided that there is enough of a crosswind to make this difficult. A massive acceleration. De Klerk is second wheel. Everyone grappling now to get there. They want to take Ballerini up the road and cause a split. Well, we're all getting ready for a sprint, and Quick-Step don't think that that is how they want to end this race. They put on a huge surge at the front. They're just testing this one out, seeing whether there is enough there. Bike Exchange move up in that white and blue kit on the right-hand side. Bahrain look across as well, and that's caused a little bit of consternation as teams come forward to try and mix this up a little bit. Quick-Step call the attack off. That will have caused some nervousness. 51 kilometers an hour now. Suddenly we get some real power in this group. Here is Randstad finally out of the back in that blue jersey. Very well done to him today with Jan Maas, who's with him. They've done their job. Here come Team DSM. Setting things up for Dainese or Welsford. If Welsford is still there, I don't see him. I do see Dainese. Here's the acceleration. Big move by the Quick-Step Alpha Vinyl team. There's a big group of riders out of the back, as you can see. We're just going to ride in. So as if there wasn't enough consternation in this group, now we're seeing more attacks, and another big attack on the left-hand side of the road. As we see Buitrago deciding to tail the attack of Quick-Step, and they're going again. Inside 10 kilometers to go. They do not want this to come to a sprint. Maybe they feel like Caleb Ewan has got this one as a nailed-on victory, and they want to soften things up. Buitrago, rather than being dropped this time, is in the mix. Another big attack goes from Quick-Step, and Buitrago in the green jersey is the rider who is following all these moves. Bahrain victorious now, trying to bring this back. Everyone looks around at each other again. 9,400 meters to go. We're in the waste zone now, so the bottles are being jettisoned, and we're getting ready for this run-in. Lotto Soudal, earlier on today, had only one rider in the front group. They've rescued it. Elio Kaiser has launched two big attacks. He was also dropped earlier on today. He was the rider from Quick-Step who was the only member of the team who was in the second group on the road. And now he's paying it back and saying, well, I got dropped, but I'm going to cause havoc in the run-in. DSM trying to hold this one together for Dainese. Here is the second group of riders who have been left behind. Now, do we have any key riders in this second group? Let's just take a little glance through. Has anyone been left? (8,400 meters to go. Remember, we swoosh around that bottom turn with just over a kilometre to go. And then it will feel like the brakes have been left off. rather than today where they felt like they have had a lead weight on their back wheel all day. This is the second group. Buitrago being looked after. We're in the recycling area. Sorry about the picture breakup at the moment. 7,700 meters to go now. Third stage. The green jersey on the shoulders of Buitrago. The red jersey on the shoulders of Caleb Ewan. The white jersey on Sharmig. Marianstadt has been dropped now and is away as we head past the area of Elephant Rock. Well, hopefully we'll just be able to pick these pictures up. Here is the front of the peloton right now. UNO-X come to the front looking after their sprinter. Their sprinter for today will be Erland Bleekra. Bora Hansgrohe getting ready on the left-hand side of the road. .7 kilometers to go. Big wide road now as riders try to get into the wheels. Bora Hansgrohe, left-hand side of the road. UNO-X talking into their radios in the yellow and red. The finish, lots of people out watching, and a very, very loud finish here in AlUla. So heading into AlUla now, making a move on the left-hand side. It's the team of Quick-Step who are trying to control this now, having caused all sorts of issues. Riders moving up towards the front for Total Energies. It is number 13, Alexander Genier. No one has full control yet. Quick-Step decide to take control now with Ilio Kaiser on his wheel. Is Tim de Klerk. Just behind Tim de Klerk on the wheel is Florian Seneschal. Then we move to Bert van Leeuberger. Behind van Leeuberger is David Ballerini. Ballerini looking good. Yannick Steimler trying to get in front of Ballerini to bring him to the race finish. 5.5 kilometers to go. Just looking back here, and there was a surge across the road, and Dainese almost came down. Dainese of DSM gets bumped. Ilio Kaiser on the front. To his side is Yashas Sutalin in the colours of Bahrain Victorious. Alongside, far left, is the Lotto Soudal train with Caleb Ewan, who are going to try and take this roundabout on the inside turn and come out and put Ewan on the front. Sutalin comes forward now. Bahrain Victorious trying to control this for Butero. Now there's a move on the left-hand side and a big attack as riders try to go clear, and this is a furious attack. One rider from Total Energies goes. On the right-hand train is Lotto Soudal, just trying to see who that is from the team of Total Energies. Big move now on the left-hand side of the road, 58 kilometers an hour, but the Lotto Soudal train have got this all under control. The arrival on the other side of the team of Bike Exchange. This is a big attack, 56 kilometers an hour, surging away. There is Danielos. He's going to move up and try and see if his teammate can go clear. Everyone looking. Nicky Terpstra just off the front now. Look at him go. Terpstra, the winner of the Paris-Roubaix. Winner of so many races. Terpstra, as he turns left now and goes clear. Terpstra making his move. Looks under his shoulder. There's two trains, left and right hand side of the road. One led by Quick-Step Alpha Vinyl, the other one led by the team of Bahrain Victorious. Quick-Step decide that is the train that they want, so they go swooshing across to the other side of the road with Lotto Soudal. And meanwhile, Bike Exchange decide they want the left-hand side of the road. Which one is it? Which do you choose? You've got to get through this roundabout, though, on the right-hand side of the road. That's where you whoosh around and you will come out and head towards AlUla, to the old town, which dates back to the 6th century BC. We're going to see a glittering display of these sprinters as they come out and try and win today's stage. 3,000 meters to go. They're going to have a little bit of a turn to the left-hand side, little whoosh through 2 kilometers, straight road. We just lost the pictures just for a moment now. 3 kilometers of racing to go. Where are the sprinters? Who is still in the lead? Who's going to lead this one out? It's rough and tumble at the moment out there in that peloton. You can see teams just unable to decide where to go. Here's the helicopter shot. Sorry about the breakup at the moment. Groenewegen has got his train going today. Lotto Soudal have got Caleb Ewan in that red jersey in a perfect position over the speed bump. 2.5 kilometers to go. They now are led by the Quick-Step team with Yannick Steimler in the lead. 2,300 meters to go. Steimler leads with Florian Seneschal on his wheel, trying to move up and stay out of the boxes. Ballerini. Also up there is Dan McClay of the Arkea Samsic team in the red and white. Lotto Soudal seem to have this totally under control. Jasper de Bust is just watching and waiting with Caleb Ewan right on his wheel. He is just waiting for the perfect moment. He's got this in perfect position. Just in front of him, World Madison champion Roger Kluger, wearing number 35. Quick-Step kick again, 60 kilometers an hour now, and Tim de Klerk and everyone talking to the Bahrain Victorious riders and saying to them, you fancy this, do you? Another attack on the front, going clear. Lotto Soudal bring Caleb Ewan to the front. The arrival now of the Bora Hansgrohe train. On the front here is the rider from Ireland, and it is Ryan Mullen now, who takes this right-hand turn. You have to be on the right-hand side of the road as he brings the Bora Hansgrohe riders through. This is the turn where you have to come out in perfect position. Get this wrong, you lose the race. Mullen did that absolutely perfectly. How well executed was that? He now emerges in the lead. He brings them through. Bahrain Victorious trying to disrupt this just a little bit. There's some other sprinters in here that we're probably not expecting to be in this front group, but they are, and they're going to give it a good crack. Dylan Groenewegen arrives. That's him there on the white and blue right-hand side as you look. 5 hours and 10 minutes of racing, and they're at 70 kilometers an hour. Here comes Fernando Gaviria on the wheel. They've also got Rakesi lined up ready to bring him forward. Gaviria already has finished in 3rd place on a stage. Also in the mix is Cyril Bart. Moving up is Dainese. Here comes the sprint now as Groenewegen gets ready to strike for Bike Exchange into the town of AlUla, who are sponsors of the team. Also making his way forward is Van Poppel on the line. Did he win it? Dylan Groenewegen of Bike Exchange in AlUla, but moving up on the left-hand side was Caleb Ewan. Did he take it? It looked like he did, but Caleb Ewan threw his bike at the line. Dylan Groenewegen of Bike Exchange has won the stage. Dylan Groenewegen, Bike Exchange. What a sprint, what a setup. Sponsored by the town they're racing into in his first race of the season. Dylan Groenewegen wins the stage. The stars of cycling have raced in, but the fans in AlUla, with the name on the shoulders of the Bike Exchange squad.
Fucking legend.
They've brought home the victory in the town that they needed to. Here's the train, here's the lead out. Groenewegen got ready, also towards the front. Right in on the wheel was Danny Van Poppel, but look at Groenewegen go. Look where Caleb Ewan came from. Groenewegen is there, and Ewan just threw his bike at the line as Groenewegen celebrated. Groenewegen celebrated early, and Caleb Ewan threw his bike there on the inside, just left it so late. Dylan Groenewegen repays the faith of Bike Exchange in him as he wins his third day of racing. A very, very happy Bike Exchange Jayco team. That was a superb sprint. Well, they got everything right, didn't they? They seemed to have it very relaxed today. They brought Groenewegen to the front. He's perfect for this sprint. Caleb Ewan seemed to just lose the wheel and had to strike late, but I thought he'd just thrown the bike at the line, and I wondered whether Groenewegen had celebrated a little bit early, but as it was, he had plenty of distance. So into AlUla Old Town, dating back to the 6th century BC. It's a new rider, though, than the Bike Exchange Jayco team, who has brought home the win. Well, the other day, Dylan Groenewegen said to me he felt like a new kid at school. Well, he's done his homework and he's delivered an A+ in his exams. Here's our race leader, Santiago Butrado. Butrado will go in there to get ready for his interview. He'll have held on to that green jersey. Second place was Dan McClay of the Arkea Samsic team. Ewan threw his bike at the line on the inside to get third. And Danny Van Poppel got fourth place. Then behind them it was Dainese Gaviria, Blikra and De Boost. And behind them Consoni and Ballerini. Dan McClay, that's the best sprint that we've seen from him for a while. A superb sprint by the British sprinter. Let's take a look then at this replay. It was a little bit messy, wasn't it? Arkea Samsic moving Dan McClay up very nicely onto the wheel of Groenewegen. Groenewegen this time, he looked good, didn't he? He was ready. And when he went, he really went, didn't he? Look at him go, burst out of the pack. McClay was closing, Ewan closed so quickly. It's a real surge up this climb. You've got to have the power like Groenewegen to just unleash that long sprint. But look at Ewan closing so fast and McClay alongside him. Covered in the dust and sand of the day. Look at McClay go. The team are happy. Lawson Craddock congratulating him. Alex Edmondson giving him a hug there. Luca Metgetz is happy. The team did everything right, didn't they? They put Jan Maas on the front for a long time today. And Groenewegen delivers. Here's the classification. Buitrago will be the leader, but Ewan has now closed the gap to 3 seconds. And then behind them, it's Maxim van Gils, Consoni now in 4th, Danny van Poppel, and there's the rundown of the top 10. Caleb Ewan will be looking to try and secure a victory on the final day. Tomorrow, I think it's going to be a little bit difficult for him to do. It's a big climb to the finish tomorrow. Thanks for all your messages. Thanks for keeping me company on a long day in the wind. Groenewegen had a great lead out. Luca Metgetz, who of course is such a good sprinter in his own right, he was ready to bring him to the front at the right time. Other sprinters moving up. Lotto Soudal had a good position here, and it looked like Caleb Ewan just got a little bit lost when the surge happened. Just looking to see what happened. Bike Exchange moved up on the left. Caleb Ewan didn't go with it. Neither did the rest of the Lotto Soudal team, and they kind of got a bit boxed at that point. But at this point in the race, Caleb Ewan is right on the wheel of his lead-out man, Jasper de Burst, with Groenewegen just alongside him. In front, in fact, he now moves onto the wheel of Groenewegen, and this is the point when the race started, and Caleb Ewan gets a little bit shunted there by the move of Bike Exchange, which closed off his lead-out train, and Dainese sneaked in, and Arkea Samsic were causing problems. There's Jasper de Burst trying to get the Uno X sprinter out of the way in Erland Bleekra, trying to shove him out the way a little bit, and suddenly Ewan is a long way back. Dainese tried to go. Look at Ewan, where he comes from. Danny van Poppel up there. Ewan threw his bike. He gets 3rd, but Groenewegen had plenty of space. Here is Groenewegen of Bike Exchange Jayco.
Second bunch sprint so far with the Bike Exchange Jayco team, and you win. Must be a huge relief.
Yeah, that's really amazing in the first race. Yeah, we have tried something also the first day, but yeah, it don't work well. Yeah, but everyone is really strong, and today we make a new plan. Yeah, because the beginning was really hard, but on the end everyone was there on the small group, and yeah, we did a really good lead out, and I have only to sprint for 100 meters. So yeah, thanks to the team, and it's incredible that yeah, I can give them the win for everything and the help today.
You probably didn't plan the wins and the first 100 kilometers. It was crazy out there, no?
Yeah, it was really crazy, but the guys put me in a really good position. And also Luca was there. But then with the headwind, everyone came back. So it was also better for us that we have the whole team for the final. And we make a really, really good plan. And yeah, the tactic yeah, was amazing today, and everyone did a really good job. And yeah, it's the second sprint, but yeah, it looks like if we are working for 3 years ago together, so it's really nice.
So you beat Dan McClay, you beat Caleb Ewan, I mean top sprinters. For your confidence so early in the season to see that the legs are working, it must be really good for the morale.
Yeah, I think for morale it's really nice if you can win in the first race. So yeah, we are a little bit angry after the first day, but we also learned a lot about the first day, so it was also a good day. And yeah, today yeah, it's really amazing and good for morale that we can take the victory. It's a nice start for the team and also for me.
And you seem to be enjoying the Australian atmosphere as well.
Yeah, it's really nice. The atmosphere is really amazing, and I'm also looking for that after last year. And yeah, they gave me all what I need, and yeah, really thanks for that.
Thank you very much.
Dylan Groenewegen wins the second bunch sprint of his season. We're going to start in Winter Park tomorrow, and we're going to head up to the top of the climb, so that's where we will be. We finished there, of course, a couple of days ago in that first sprint taken by Caleb Ewan. Dylan Groenewegen, to me, he does seem very happy in this setup, and I wonder whether with that confidence that he's gained from today, that Dylan Groenewegen is going to be a real rider to reckon with again this season. Certainly got the sprint right, didn't he? The team were perfect. We wait then for the presentation of stage number 3. Dylan Groenewegen wins stage 3 here to AlUla Old Town in Saudi Arabia. A happy rider, a little bit of emotion in those eyes. And he points to the town and the sponsor of the team that he's just raced into. This town has never seen anything like this. Confirmation then of the result after a long day in the saddle. 5 hours and 11 minutes. Groenewegen wins ahead of McClay and Ewan. Van Poppel was there, so was Dainese and Gaviria in the top 6. A very happy rider here after executing the plan. Here's our green jersey, Santiago Buitrago of the Bahrain Victorious team. Not only was he dropped earlier on today, but on the run-in, he was the rider closing the gaps. Santiago Buitrago leads the race as we go into stage number 4. We go back onto the terrain that will suit him tomorrow. For this region, Bahrain want to win this race, and they have brought a perfect rider to do so. Santiago Buitrago leads by 3 seconds from Caleb Ewan, with Rui Costa up there at 13 on same time as Anton Sharmig of the UNO-X team. The red jersey, Caleb Ewan, for the leader of the race on points. The team, I'm sure, will go away and analyse what happened on that run in there. They seem to have everything relaxed, and suddenly just that surge left at Lotto Soudal just a few places behind. Ewan leads the points classification though with 29 points. Groenewegen on 15, or equal on points with Buitrago. The white jerseys for the best young rider. Santiago Buitrago wears that as well. It will be worn by someone else on the road tomorrow because he can't wear both jerseys, but he's having a great race so far. Here's the current situation in the best young rider jersey. Buitrago leads by 13 seconds on Sharmik, who'll wear the white jersey tomorrow on the road of stage 4. The final jersey is the blue jersey for the most active rider. He sprints along the way, and this rider deserves this fully. From the UNO-X team, Martin Uranstad. How much work this rider has done in the last 3 days is admirable beyond comprehension. Absolutely superb by this young rider. There's the situation, 17 points to Uranstad with Sorzakis in second place, and Turgis sneaks there in third. Well, we look forward to a big mountain climb tomorrow. Not a major mountain, but certainly a big old rise up to the finish. It takes us up to 1,211 meters above sea level, and then a climb that's got gradients of 18%, nearly 19. Here's Buitrago, the green jersey.
Santiago, primer día con este maillot, pero muy difícil, supongo.
Sí, la verdad que le decía
very
a un
difficult
compañero mío
day
ya en el
on
final
the roads today.
que la verdad ha sido una de las etapas más difíciles en mi carrera deportiva, desde el kilómetro 0 a full gas todos. El equipo, la verdad que hoy fueron chicos que me ayudaron demasiado, de verdad que mantuve este jersey gracias a ellos, al trabajo excepcional. Hubieron momentos en las que de verdad me vi muy en apuros, pero el equipo me supo mantener muy bien ubicado, pero sin duda es una etapa en la que recordaré siempre.
It's been a hard day for him, hasn't it, today? Full gas from kilometre 0, dropped. The team had to bring him back, and the team did a wonderful job today for Buitrago to bring him back to the front and then put him in a good position.
Bastante dura, y con este final, bueno, no es en alto, pero sí que tiene una subida bastante dura. La hice el primer día que llegué acá y la verdad son porcentajes muy altos. Esperamos recuperar ahora bien de la etapa de hoy y poder mañana defender esta camiseta.
Muchas gracias.
No, a ustedes, muchas gracias.
He's a happy rider, Buitrago, after these days of racing, and he's looking forward to the mountains tomorrow, or the climbs tomorrow. It'll suit him an awful lot better than today did, because he was under massive pressure as the race blew across the desert into groups. Let's take a look then at tomorrow's stage. 149.3 kilometers of racing to the sky views of Harat Uwairid. It goes up on the volcano line. Along the way, we'll have our usual sprints, but it's going to be a fearsome finish to tomorrow's stage. Thanks for joining us. Dylan Groenewegen is back on top form for Bike Exchange Jayco as he takes stage 3. Bye for now.